Imagine a government where the people had no say, where government officials would tell people what to do, and the people would just have to submit. Where some people would have no say, and would be oppressed, and they just have to deal with it. Where people wouldn't have any say in international relations, and when the country would go to war and who would fight it. The people would just have to go, and the government decided that. This is what our government could be like if we did not have the power of voting. Without the power of voting, we would not have the ability to keep the government in check or have our views represented in the government. We should vote so we can have our views represented in the government and so we can keep the government in check. I have studied history, and I've talked to history teachers, and I've learned about how the government was set up by the Founding Fathers in the specific way. Also, being a voter myself, I believe voting is an essential part of the government, and everybody should vote as part of being an American citizen. Voting is an essential part of the government. It allows our views to be represented in the government, and allows us to keep the government in check. So voting is an essential part of the government. It is how we decide who the next politicians are going to be. Without being able to decide who the next politicians would be, then it would have to be if it wasn't voting, it'd be the people who are currently in power who decide who the future people are in power. Voting also makes a balance between a republic and a democracy. We had a straight republic in the past that has not turned out well, and that's also where we get lots of kings and queens and noblemen, and the poor people, or the majority, gets run over. Also, with a straight democracy, that also hasn't turned out well in the past, as oftentimes the majority makes bad decisions, such as racism. Voting is also used to decide many major decisions, such as constitutional amendments and how we decide what laws we're going to take. As politicians make decisions that we don't get to vote on, we still get a say in it. Voting allows us to keep the government in check. If politicians are making bad decisions, we can just vote them out. We don't need them. If politicians know they can be voted out, they'll be more careful about their decision in the future. And politicians want to be voted for again in the future. So they'll be more likely to make decisions that will be represented in the government, or would be good for the people. Politicians, while your vote may not be, might not actually make the difference between a big decision or not, it still helps politicians see what the majority wants. The politicians look at voting ratios to figure out how to make future decisions. So if you have a 50-50 vote, or close to 50-50, politicians are likely to come and reevaluate that. If you get a 90 to 10%, politicians are going to go, okay, that's a solid decision. Ideas can also change over time. So if you want change in the society, you can vote politicians that will bring change, or you can be part of the resistance and vote politicians who will try to keep the society the same. Voting allows for your views to be represented in the government, and it's an essential part of this government. You should vote to keep the government in check, to allow your views to be represented, and to keep the government working properly. People should vote because if you don't, you won't be able to keep the government in check, and you won't be able to have your views represented in the government. With that said, I hope you will be more likely to vote now. Thank you.